Yes. Are you able to watch my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the next form of reproduction is asexual reproduction. So far we discussed, wait a second. So far we discussed asexual and sexual reproduction. We have taken example of hydra, and for fragmentation, we have taken example of starfish. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so the next character that will be possessed by the living organisms is the metabolism.
Metabolism.
Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
metabolism. All organisms are made up of biomolecules, right? Do you know what is biomolecule is? The chemical, complex chemicals. Okay, maybe a carbohydrate, maybe a protein, all these are considered biomolecules. So made up of biomolecules, and these biomolecules are nothing but chemicals that are consistently being made. That means they will be continuously produced in our body. Okay, glucose production is a continuous process, otherwise we may not survive, we may not get energy, right? So in the similar way, they will be changed into one form to the other kind of biomolecule, right? Okay, so that kind of reactions will go on continuously. So that is what the metabolism is. These conversions or biochemical reactions are called metabolic reactions, and sum total of all metabolic reactions happening in the organism is called metabolism. Okay, what do you mean by metabolism? Sum total, that means inclusive of all biochemical reactions, all chemical reactions that are happening in our body is called metabolism. So this is one of the defining character of the living organism. No non-living organism is able to show metabolic reactions. Okay, so by metabolism could be anabolism or catabolism. Okay, what do you mean by anabolism? Anabolism is nothing but making of complex substances, okay, from simple ones. Okay, that means here complex substances like proteins will be formed by from amino acids. Okay, that is what the anabolism is, making of complex substance from simple ones. Okay, and catabolism is something breaking down. Okay, so catabolism is something so breaking down of complex substances into simple ones. Okay, that means if a complex protein is breaking down into its respective amino acids, okay, then it is called as catabolism. So here the next character that is possessed by living organisms is the ability to sense the external stimuli. So here the living organisms have the ability to ability to respond to their environment. That means whatever happening in their surroundings they can sense. Okay, that kind of sense is only possible if they are living. So living organisms are able to respond to their surroundings. These external stimuli could be physical, okay, chemical or biological. So physical, that means something physically happening. That means maybe changes in light, temperature, maybe the temperature is cooling down or heating up in surroundings, then we are able to sense that change. Even the photo period, okay, we can sense the photo period. And chemicals, like if something something is spreading in our surroundings, we are able to sense. And also the biological thing, biological stimuli. That means maybe if a predator is proceeding towards the prey, okay, then we can sense that also. So that kind of biological stimuli sense will also be there. Okay, we can sense, simply we can be conscious. Okay, whatever happening we can sense. That means the consciousness. Okay, that kind of consciousness uh, is the one of the character that is possessed by the living organisms. From prokaryotes to higher eukaryotes, all respond and react to their surroundings. So every living organism is able to react to their surroundings. So the diversity in living world, that means here we have millions of species on our earth. Okay, the number of species that are known and described might be ranged from 1.7 to 1.8 million. So these are only known and described. There are some millions of them which are not discovered, which are not described. So we are just assuming there are many things that need to be discovered. So basically, they're continuously, that means this is a continuous process. That means the discovery of new organisms, okay, that is a continuous process. This refers to the biodiversity or the number of different types of organisms present on the earth. So here biodiversity is nothing but the number of different types of organisms that are present on the earth. So basically it includes identification of organisms, nomenclature of organisms. So here identification is nothing but continuous process by which new organisms on earth are being recognized. That means every day, every single day, or maybe there are scientists who are working and they will work on and discover new organisms present on the earth, new species. Okay, so here coming to the open software they discovered. Okay, if an organism is being recognized and it is recognized as a new, then we need to give a name. So all living organisms called by their local names, which are often changes with their places they belong to. Okay, so all living organisms generally have their local names. So here all living organisms called by their local names. That means take one example. Maybe take an example of mango that would be called by with one name in your place, and if you go to the other place, the name will change according to the language. So basically, according to the place they belong to, the name will be changed. That is called common names, that are called common names. And the naming the living organisms which can be recognized and accepted all over the world required, and this process is known as nomenclature. So nomenclature is nothing but naming the living organisms. So in which way it should be recognized and accepted all over the world. So here, naming to the organisms must follow principles of either International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, that means ICBN, or International Code for Geological Nomenclature. So here, what is ICBN? International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. That means to give names to the plants and to give names to the animals So here, in order to name the plants, we should follow the International Council of Botanical Nomenclature, that is ICBN. And in order to give names to the animals, we need to obey the rules that are put forward by International Code for Geological Nomenclature, or ICZN. So here, what is binomial nomenclature? So we discussed we need to follow the set of rules that are put forward by ICBN or ICZN to name the living organisms. But there is also other popular system called binomial nomenclature. So here the binomial nomenclature is nothing but a system to give names to the plants and animals, living organisms. So basically, biologists all over the world must follow universally accepted principles to give scientific names to the organisms, so that the name should be given, so that everybody around the world should be able to recognize the name organism by the single name. So wherever we go, the name should be common. That is what the scientific name supposed to be. That is how it's supposed to be. So basically, binomial nomenclature is the biological system of naming organisms, okay, in which the name is composed of two terms. It is composed of two terms. Whatever the scientific name you take, it must have two components or two terms. It is made up of two terms. The first term indicates the genus, and the coming to the second term indicates the species. So the scientific name composed of genus name and the species name together, and this naming system is given by Carolus Linnaeus. He is the scientist who proposed this system, and the names the scientific names mostly are given by Linnaeus in his 10th edition of book called Species Plantarum. So basically, so he authored a book called Species Plantarum, published in the year of 1753. It contained all plants known for at that time. So he enlisted as many plants as he can discover, as he can find, and he classified 5,900 species of plants in this book called Species Plantarum. And the other popular book is Systema Naturae. This Systema Naturae is the book which is also written by Carolus Linnaeus, and he mentioned about the 4,200 species of animals. Regarding these animals, he described and he classified. Okay, he is able to classify these many species of animals in his book called Systema Naturae. And he also mentioned about the binomial nomenclature in his book called Systema Naturae. So what is binomial nomenclature? So by the way, what is binomial nomenclature? So as name indicates, bi means two and nomial indicates the name. So basically, every name has two parts, as we already discussed, and one represents the genus and the second part represents the, that is, species epithet. So basically, the name of author appears after this specific epithet. So after this name of this species, if there is if they want to mention the author name, that will be present after the species name, and it should be in abbreviated form, not full name. Okay, so here is an example, Mangifera indica. Here Mangifera is the genus and indica is the species, and Linnaeus, he discovered and described the plant. Mangifera indica is nothing but the mango. So here, when the names are printed, they should be in italics so that it will indicate the Latin origin. So basically, most of the names are derived from Latin language. So in order to indicate the origin of this Latin language, so we need to mention, in order to mention that if they are printed, they should be in italics. Okay, and if they are handwritten, so if we are writing them with our pen, then they need to be underlined. So these are the rules in binomial nomenclature. The name of the genus is always read first and it must be capitalized. So here we can see the M in this Mangifera indica is in capitals, and indica, the first letter of the species need not to be capitalized. So this is all about the binomial nomenclature. So there is something called tatonyms. What do you mean by tatonyms? So tatonyms are nothing but the the name in which name of genus and species. So the scientific name, which consists of two, genus and species, and both are the same. So if the name of genus and the species are the same, then those are called tatonyms, like Katla Katla and Naza Naza. So this is Katla Katla is fish and Naza Naza is the snake, cobra, king cobra. So these tatonyms, so here genus name is the same and the species name is also the same. That is called tatonyms. That are called tatonyms. And here, until here we understood how to give names to the organisms that are discovered or that are being studied. So after that, after we studied the organisms, we need to classify them, we need to group them, we need to give positions in the biological classification. So what we mean by classification? First we need to understand classification is nothing but sorting out or maybe grouping, process of grouping. So the process of grouping together various organisms according to their similarities, dissimilarities, and according to their phylogenetic descent. That means how they evolved. The phylogenetic relations are nothing but how do the organism is evolved. So considering these kind of things, we generally classify, we generally make some groups of organisms based on their similarities, and this is called as classification, biological classification. The scientific term for groups or categories is the taxa. Taxa is nothing but a group of organisms which shares the similar characters. So based on the characters, all living organisms, uh, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. Okay, there are different taxonomical levels. So level by level, there are many levels. Okay, the here the criteria for classification, that means by what criteria the biological living organisms are classified, maybe include external, internal structure. Okay, maybe morphology, based on the morphological features, and structure of the cell, that means based on the cell biology. and the developmental process may be embryology related. So how do the organisms will develop? Okay, that kind of features will be considered to classify the biological organisms. So and ecological information. So what are the habitat they belongs to? So that kind of things will also be considered to classify the biological systems. And here evolution, that means how do the organism is evolved from its ancestors. It may be differentiated, it may possess some differentiating characters so that it will be evolved into the individual species. So that kind of information will also be considered to understand the its classification. So here the next thing is systematics. So here systematics is the word that is derived from Latin, and the word called systema, it is derived from the word called systema. That means the systematic arrangement of the organisms. So if we arrange organisms in a systematic way, something, whatever it is, if we arrange the things in a systematic way, that is called systema. So basically systematics is the study of organizing biological organisms into systematic way. So systematics, the scope of systematics include identification, nomenclature, and classification of living organisms. So this is the systematics are the study of classifications, and it includes the identification, nomenclature, and the classification of organisms. Here another field called neosystematics. So here neosystematics. So what is the difference? The term given by Julian Huxley in the year of 1940. It is a new branch of systematics and is used to know the interrelationship among the living organisms. So how do they interact in between them? So those kind of interrelations will be considered in the neosystematics. This is the new form of systematics. So what are the different types of classifications? So we have we learned how generally the what are the criteria for classification, why we need to classify organisms, what are the criteria, that means anatomical features, maybe morphological features, maybe kind of evolutionary features, ecological things. We consider all these things to classify the living organisms into individual groups. And what are the different types of classifications? Okay, again there are different types of classification. If we consider many things, okay, then that is other one type of classification. If we take only handful things, handful characters to classify organisms, that is one way of classification. If you take our evolutionary history, okay, we only consider evolutionary relationships of some organisms, then that is called as one type of classification. So based on the motive there are different types of classifications. Biological classifications aims at sorting living organisms, okay, living organisms into small comprehensible groups so that we can study them easily. So if we classify organisms into small related groups, we can study them easily, we can understand them easily. If you find a new organism similar, having similar features, we can simply match the characters with the existing ones so that we group them. So easily we can understand, study newly recognized organisms by relating them with the already recognized, already classified organisms. So that is why biological classification will be helpful. And here it makes comparisons between group of organisms. So it is easy to compare between groups of organisms. Easy. So it is easy to compare group of organisms, and species is the basic taxonomic unit. Here the species is the basic taxonomic unit. That means species is the lowest rank in taxonomy. So here there are three main systems of classification. One is artificial classification, one is natural classification, and the third one is phylogenetic classification. So what is artificial classification? So classification based on very limited number of characters. Okay, basically, if we only consider the size of the plant, So here we have herbs, shrubs, and trees. So only these three types of plants will be, we will have. Okay, three categories we can find. And if we go to the habitats, maybe terrestrial animals, we can find terrestrial, maybe marine organisms. So these are the two categories possible if we go by the habitat. So by using this artificial system of classification, only limited number of characters will be considered to classify organisms. Maybe size, maybe a habitat. Similar to that, one or two characters are considered to classify entire living organisms. So it is not possible to simply understand them, because kind of unrelated species may comes under the one group. There is a chance. And similar species may be based on their habitat or size, maybe that kind of the limiting limiting character, that may be sorted into two different unrelated groups. So there is a possibility of making errors by considering very limited number of the characters, a number of characters in. So this is actually not acceptable always. This artificial system is not acceptable. This is not existed. So previously, scientists used to classify in this way, but there is no more artificial classification that is accepted. And here, the next one is the natural system. So here, natural system, it is based on the important biological similarities of organisms. So basically, important biological similarities of organisms, that we take as many as similarities, as many characters as possible. That many characters are being considered to classify the organism. So all important, inclusive all important biological similarities, like characters, maybe anatomical characters, okay, cell organization, ecological characters, maybe evolutionary history, how the organism is evolved, that kind of all characters, inclusive all characters. If you are able to classify the living organisms, that is called natural system. And it lead to homogeneous assembly of related groups. So if there are some related groups, based on the number of related characters, we generally sort them into one group. So it lead to homogeneous assembly. That means only similar kind of animals or similar kind of organisms will comes into the similar groups. So that will happen. That is, this is acceptable. So this exists till it is existing. Still it is existing, this natural system, and this artificial system of classification is no more existed. So here phylogenetic system of classification is based on the evolutionary relationships, and that means how the organism is evolved. That means from one ancestor the organism will be evolved. So two species may be evolved. They share common ancestry and the evolutionary history. Based on the evolutionary history, the organisms are classified. So that is called the phylogenetic classification. So the organisms which share the common evolutionary history, that means they might have common ancestor, are classified into one group, and they may not always applicable due to gaps in the fossil records. So generally, how the evolutionary history will be described based on the fossil records. So if there is a gap in fossil record, that means the fossils are not found, the common ancestry is not found, then it is not possible to classify organisms by phylogenetic system. So that is one of the demerits. So basically, all organisms present on Earth cannot be classified by this phylogenetic system. So that is what the phylogenetic system of classification. So taxonomical categories. So what are taxonomical categories? So we generally classified organisms into different taxa. So classification is the process by which closely resembling organisms, that means closely related organisms, which have similar characters are placed into one group, and the group which have similarities are placed into these groups. Small groups which have similarities in between them are placed into the larger groups. So there is various levels of grouping or ranks in the classification, that is known as taxonomic categories. The category is an abstract term, so it represents the rank or a level in the taxonomy, in the classification. So it represents the one specific level of the classification. So taxon represents the biological object that is assigned to a category. So for example, taxon of birds is aves. That means birds are considered as aves, and this is the class of the bird. So birds are belongs to the class. Birds are belongs to the class called aves. So here, this is the aves is the taxon. So the taxon is the ave, and here the class is considered as the category, the level. What is the level? It is a class. So basically, they closely resemble with each other. So here, here the species, what are the different levels, the taxonomic categories, or what are the different levels of classification, what are the types and subtypes. So here species, we start with species. So species is a group of actually and potentially interbreeding population which are reproductively isolated from other such group. That means species is the group of organisms, okay, which can interbreed. That means they can make fertile offspring, they can make healthy offspring, they can reproduce among themselves and make fertile offspring, that kind of population. And they are reproductively isolated from, so one species cannot reproduce, one species cannot reproduce with the other species to give fertile offspring. That is not possible. So there are, one species must be reproductively isolated from the other group, other species. So they closely resemble each other, share the common ancestor. These are the things. So the organism among one species are generally resemble with each other. That means they look like each other and they share common ancestor. So they are evolved from one ancestor. So here the next level of classification is genus. That means it includes few number of species. Okay. It is the group of species. So group of similar species is called as genus, which are alike and in broad features of their organization, but different in detail. So broad features may be similar, but if you go into detail, they must be different. Individual species possess their own sort of characters. So species in a genus have common ancestry. So from common ancestor, different species will be evolved from one genus. So here the example is Panthera leo. So Panthera leo, Panthera pardus, Panthera tigris. So here Panthera is the genus. Here Panthera leo is the lion, and Panthera pardus is the leopard, and the Panthera tigris is the scientific name of tiger. So these are the three species: leo, pardus, and the tigris. These are the three species present in the genus called Panthera. And next level is family. The family is a group of similar genera which resembles their characters. So the family consists of similar genera. So genus Panthera and genus Felis are placed under family Felidae. So basically genus Panthera. So here genus Panthera, that means in the genus which belongs to the lions and tigers, and the genus Felis, this is the genus of cats. So under the family called Felidae, so, which shares the common features with cats and among cats and tigers. So it includes genus of Panthera and the Felis. So next level of organization is the order. So basically, the order is a group of related families. So some related families included in one order, and which exhibit few similar characters. For example, families like Convoluaceae, Solanaceae are included in the same order called polynomials based on their floral character. So these floral characters are considered to classify the order into these families called Convoluaceae and Solanaceae. And coming to the animals example, in animals, family Felidae and Canidae. So these are the two families. Here Felidae, as we already discussed, it includes two genus, Panthera, which includes tigers, lions, and leopard and cats. That kind of family, and Canidae, which includes dogs. So these two kinds of families are included in the same order, Carnivora. That means they eat meat. So based on one character, they include different families in the order called Carnivora. So the next one is the class. So class includes different orders. So as we discussed, carnivora, and here another order called primata, which comprising monkeys, gorillas, gibbons, and all. These kind of primata, even human is included in the primata. This primata, order primata, is placed in the class called Mammalia, along with the other order called Carnivora. So here, as we already discussed, this order called Carnivora includes cats, dogs, and tigers, lions, and all these things, all these animals which are comes under order Carnivora will be included in the class called Mammalia. So here, what is the common feature of mammalians? All mammalians like cat, dog, human being, and monkeys and all, that they have the milk glands. So they produce milk, they give milk to their kids, and hair and skin. These are also some of the common features. So next taxon is the phylum. So phylum is a group of related animal classes. That means one phylum includes different classes. So here birds along with mammals. So here is the class Mammalia. Mammalia includes Carnivora. In Carnivora, we can also find the other families called Felidae, families like Felidae, and in Felidae family, we can find, as we already discussed, what this Panthera, Panthera leo, that kind of Panthera genus and other similar genus, and also Felis. These two, Felis and Panthera, these are two genus included in Felidae. These kind of Felidae, Canidae, that kind of families included in the order called Carnivora. And similar to Carnivora, there are other orders like Primata and Carnivora, Primata together put in the class called Mammalia. And the next level of classification is the phylum. So here phylum is a group of related animal classes. Here birds along with mammals are members of the class. Phylum is a group of related animal classes, and birds along with mammals are members of the phylum called Chordata. So here is the phylum called Chordata, in which along with mammals you can also find birds. So here phylum Chordata includes the organisms which possess backbone. So because of the features of presence of notochord and dorsal halo nerve cord, these are the common features which are commonly found in among the all animals present in the phylum Chordata. That may be a bird, that may be a mammal. So basically in plant classes, which with a few similar characters that are arranged in higher category of the division. So basically a phylum consists of the group of related animal classes or plant classes, different classes together in the form of phylum. They form a phylum. So basically the next taxonomic rank is the kingdom. Kingdom is the highest category. So this is the highest category. All animals may be included in one kingdom. All plants will be included in the other group called other taxon called other kingdom. So that in that way, here a kingdom includes large set of animals or plants. Here it is a group of closely related organisms. So example, all plants have common features of autotrophic mode of nutrition. That means just by seeing a plant we can say it will possess photosynthesis. They can make their own food. That means that is what the autotrophic mode of nutrition is. That means they will not depend on the others for their food needs. Okay. And the presence of cell wall. So here the presence of cell wall is the other common feature present commonly in the plant kingdom. Hello. So here, kingdom is the highest category in biological classification. So this is the topmost category. So here in kingdom, it includes all maybe large set of animals or plants. So having some close relations like kind of one feature, one common feature that shares among all participants. So that is if you take an example of kingdom plantae. So kingdom plantae includes all autotrophic mode of nutrition containing organisms. That means they produce their own food by photosynthesis and presence of cell wall. No animal will have the cell wall, but all plants will possess the cell wall in their cells. So these cell walls are made up of cellulose. So this is the major component of cell wall present in the plant. So they belong to the kingdom Plantae. So all plants present on earth are belongs to the kingdom Plantae, which have the common features like autotrophic nutrition and presence of cell wall that is made up of cellulose. So taxonomists have also developed subcategories in this higher key for more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. So not only them, there are subcategories also, some of the subcategories also, in order to make them more clear. So basically, as we discussed, so kingdom is the highest rank maybe shares some of the common characters of different phylums. So next comes the phylum, and phylum includes few classes, and this kind of class includes the similar set of orders, and one order may consist of related families, and in one family you can find related genus, genera. The plural term for genus is the genera, and in one genera you can find related species. This species may also be subdivided into subspecies sometimes. And here species is the basic taxonomic unit, but species considered as basic taxonomic unit, that is the lowest rank. And here is the kingdom, which is having highest rank in the taxonomy. So we have kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia, kingdom Munera, like that. So here is one example, the classification of tiger. As we already discussed, the tiger, the scientific name of tiger is Panthera tigris. So it is binomial nomenclature, right? Panthera, that means it indicates the genus, and tigress is the name of the species. And here genus is Panthera. Okay, the subfamily is Pantherinae, and the family is Felidae. That means it also includes the cats. So suborder is the Feliformia, the order is Carnivora. Okay, the class is the Mammalia. So in order called Carnivora, we can also find the other similar families like cats, like Felidae. Canidae is also included in under the Carnivora, as we already discussed. Likewise, similar orders, Carnivora, maybe the other order. So some related orders will be included in the class called Mammalia, that includes all mammals. So here, the phylum Chordata. Chordata includes the similar classes like Mammalia and Primata included in the Chordata. So here Chordata is the phylum in which all vertebrates are included. Maybe birds are also included. Okay. All mammals are also included in the phylum called Chordata. And coming to the kingdom Animalia, it includes all animals. So this is the example of the classification of the tiger. So the next one is Homo sapiens. So the Homo sapiens are nothing but human beings. So the scientific name for human being is Homo sapien. Here, Homo is the genus and sapiens is the species. So here, the genus is Homo, family is Hominidae, and order is primates, and the class is Mammalia, that includes all mammals along with primates. It may also include the other orders. The subphylum is Vertebrata. So it includes all vertebrates. So in Chordata, along with vertebrate, invertebrates also included, that is the other subphylum. So this is the phylum called Chordata, in which you can find all from earthworm to the from birds, fishes, along with the human beings and all. So in kingdom Animalia, it includes all animals. So this is the classification of human. So what are the taxonomical aids? So basically, taxonomical aids are the collection of samples. So basically, in order to study different species, we need to preserve already studied specimens. So specimen is a representative of the one type of organisms. It is a representative from one group, one related group. So what it gives, so preserving a specimen. So in your laboratory, you will also find specimens. So by studying the specimen, you can also understand the common features that are shared by the all related organisms present in that group. So basically, taxonomical aids are nothing but the ways, different systems that are able to collect the samples and preserve them so that we can study them. So here, taxonomical aids are the collections of samples. So collection of samples and preserved organisms. So generally we collect the samples from different organisms with different species, maybe different genera. And we generally preserve these organisms, like as we do in our botany studies. we generally make herbarium. That is kind of taxonomic aid. That means we preserve, we collect some plants, we press them and stick them onto the herbarium sheets. That is a kind of preserving, so that we can study them further. So that is kind of, herbarium is the example of the taxonomic aid. So how do we collect the samples and protect them, preserve them for the further study? So basically, taxonomic aids are the collections of samples or preserved organisms which help in extensive research for identification of various taxonomic hierarchy. So basically, so for understanding, for doing research, for studying them into the detail, for identification of different taxonomical kind of things will be happened if you preserve some samples, so that one new organism, if it is being recognized, then we can compare these characters with already preserved ones. So the understanding of new ones will become easy, and classifying organisms into various categories need a lot of field and laboratory study. So classifying organisms need lot of laborious work. We need to have laboratory study as well as the field study, so that we can identify organisms, we can understand them in detail, so that we can only classify them, then only we can classify them. So this is an essential process, because taxonomic categorization helps in identifying many organisms necessary in various fields like agriculture, industries, bioresources, etc. So basically, so this categorization, classifying helps in identifying many organisms, as many as possible. So if one new organism is being recognized, we can simply understand them based on the features that are already recorded. So we can also understand them just by comparing with the specimens. So that is what the taxonomic aid. So necessary in various fields, so like agriculture, industries, and bioresources, this is going to be helpful. The taxonomic aids are the main source which helps us in studying the relative level of group of organisms. So what is the relative level? How much it relates to the other organisms that are already studied. So that is what the relative level is. So how much, how in any what the number of ways. So it matches with the already existing organism. If it is not much related, then we can consider it as a new organism, new species, or something like that. If it is sharing many common features, the relative level is high, then we can simply classify and understand it as a already existing species. So by comparing, we can only classify. Their taxonomic hierarchy and taxonomic rank. So that their taxonomic hierarchy and taxonomic rank will be fine. Types of taxonomic aids, taxonomical aids. So here there are many ways to preserve and collect the samples. So those are called taxonomic aids. So herbarium, as we already discussed, herbarium is one of the taxonomical aid. It is a storehouse of collected plant specimens. So it is a storehouse of collected plant specimens. If we collect some different species, local diversity, if we are going to collect, we generally store all plant specimens and in the form of herbarium. That means they are dried and pressed and they are preserved in the sheets. So generally, a herbarium sheet is consisting of a plant which stick onto it, and it will show floral characters and the inflorescence, and similar to floral, all floral characters over how many number of pollen are present, and what is the inflorescence, and also how the leaves are arranged, and what is the type of branching is present in that particular plant. So that all characters need to be recorded, we need to be studied. So by comparing with these already existing specimens present in the herbarium, we can simply study the new organisms. So basically, they are provided along with the description. That means the plant will be stick onto the herbarium along with the description. Some kind of script will be there that include the species, that means the classification of that plant, that means what the species it belongs to, what is the genus, what is the family of the specimen, along with the collection date, uh, at what time it is collected, at in which date it is collected, and at what place, so that the habitat will be understood. So so that we can understand, okay, this variety of plant, this variety of this species of plant is present in this particular place, and during this time uh, these are prevalent, like that. These kind of things will be understood by studying the herbarium record. So common name, so what is the common name of the that plant, so that we can understand the features in detail. So by knowing common name, we can find all the characters. So, and the collector's name of the person who collected the herbarium. So all these will be described on a short description on the herbarium sheet along with the plant stick onto it. These sheets are stored and used for the future study. So that is what the herbarium. Herbarium is one of the way to preserve the diversity. So there are other ways of other types of taxonomic aids. So botanical gardens. See, these botanical gardens are the places where specific plants are grown and are labeled according to their taxonomy. So basically, we take one place, and in which all plants, so many kinds of plants are grown. So many kinds of plants are grown, and they are labeled according to their taxonomy. That means the classification, the scientific names are labeled on the plant, tagged on the plant, so that they will be preserved. These are live samples. So by generations, if these plants will grow and die, then before they're going to die, they can reproduce, and similar plants will be preserved in live condition. So that is what the botanical, they maintain the live plants, and also they study them. So that is what the botanical garden is. Royal Botanical Garden, present in the London, is a popular example, which includes many species of the plants. Thousands of plants are present in that. So that is a popular example. So museum. So these museums, plants and animal species are preserved in jars and containers with the help of appropriate preservatives. So generally, in our zoology labs, we can find these kind of specimens. So small organisms, starfishes, maybe marine organisms are generally preserved using some chemicals. They can be preserved. For kind of formaldehyde or some other chemicals are used to preserve live specimens. That means the dead animals are preserved in jars and containers so that we can directly understand them. The morphological features can be directly, we can watch them and understand them. They may also dried and preserved. Some museums also contain dried samples. Say for example, skeletons and whole organisms. Whole organisms are also available in museums. Either dried or preserved can be stored and exhibited. So here in the museums, we can see skeletons and whole organisms, either that may be dried and preserved or preserved. That means either they are dried and hanged or preserved in chemicals. That kind of specimens are also available in museums. Kind of geological park. So geological park is related to, we can say it is similar to the botanical garden in which live plants are available. Here in geological park, places where animals and birds are kept in protected boundaries. So here all animals, different types of animals will be protected and they are caged in geological park. An attempt is made to provide them with a habitat closest to their natural habitat. So basically they provide environment which is similar to their natural habitats. Where do they live? Similar to the forest. They grow trees around them, like that. So what is the key? So basically, key is the type of taxonomic aid where plants and animals are recognized based on the contrasting characters known as keys. So these contrasting characters are known as keys, and using these keys, we can recognize the organisms. We always have questions, series of questions, whether which have the two alternative answers in keys. That kind of similar to okay, these organisms, whether it is having tail or not. If it is yes, we can take it into the one category, and if it is absent, we simply consider it as unrelated. So two contrasting keys are generally kept as a pair. So presence of tail or absence of tail, two contrasting keys. These two are contrasting keys. So they kept as pair and leading to the acceptance or of one organism and rejection of the other. While we classify organisms, we use these keys. Okay, these keys are having contrasting character. This is a type of taxonomic aid to understand and study, classify the organisms by using their contrasting characters known as keys. So these keys contain series of questions. Presence or absence of green pigment. If present, that will be accepted as a plant. If it is absent, that will not be accepted as plants. That is an example, simple example. It is used for identification of organism based on the similarities and dissimilarities. So based on the similarity features, that means what are the similar characters and dissimilarities, what are the differentiating characters. Based on these two, so based on these two, we generally classify organisms. And there are other kind of descriptions as well. Flora, manual, and the monograph. Basically, what is flora? So these are other kind of preservating or descriptions that are helpful to understand the species, understand the diversity. They are also helpful to classify organisms and all. So basically, flora is the book Basically, it is a kind of book which contains information of all plant life present in a particular region. That means flora of Andhra Pradesh, flora of Telangana, flora of something, some other state will be present, will be printed as one bounded book, and in which all plants that are being recognized in that particular region will be recorded with their respective photographs and other features. All are recorded. So basically, that is what the flora is. Even we also have fauna. Fauna includes the animals. So record of animals, fauna. So flora and fauna. Flora is the book which contains the information of all plant life present in the particular region at particular time. And the other type is manual. So manual is basically listing of all plants of particular area. That means what are the all plants. So if we list them, if we make a list, okay, these are the plants present one by one, we'll note down all names of all scientific names of all plants, okay, present in one particular area, and that is called as manual, and it is useful information for identification of names of various species found in that area. Okay, so it is helpful to identify these things. So here is the other type of description called monograph. So monograph is a systematic detailed study of particular organism or its taxonomic group. Maybe monograph is a very exclusive thing, that means we exclusively study one type of particular organism, or maybe a taxonomic group, maybe a one species. If you if you make a detailed study and if you record it in, that is known as monograph. So if you are studying a complete genus, then it is going to be the monograph of that particular genus. So monograph is a study of detailed study of a particular organism or any other kind of tag, whether it may be a species or maybe detailed study of a genus or maybe a family. So that is what the monograph is. Manual is a book in which all plants it contains the list of plants or animals. So that is what the manual is. And flora is the description of all plant life present in one particular area, maybe at one particular time. So flora, manual, monographs are the other types of descriptions to study the diversity. Okay, so basically so these are the taxonomic aids. Taxonomic aids are nothing but to preserve, to store the samples, biological samples, so that further studies are possible. That makes easy to understand understand different organisms, and also helpful to classify related organisms that are being recognized newly. So that kind of things are possible in taxonomic aids. Taxonomical aids are main source which helps in studying relative level of groups of organisms. So here, what are the different types? Herbarium, botanical garden, museum, zoological park, and key. As we discussed, key is something which have the contrasting characters, whether it is present or absent. Only those contrasting characters are paired, and that is called as a key. So presence or absence of something maybe is called as a key. So we use this key to classify one sort of organisms. Okay, so all living organisms based on the presence of photosynthetic pigment or absence of photosynthetic pigment. So that is the key. Okay, presence or absence of photosynthetic pigment is the key. So we use this key to divide all organisms into plants or animals. So similar to that. And museums, botanical gardens, we already discussed. And herbarium, as we already discussed, it includes the plants that are sticked onto the herbarium sheets, in which the description will be brief description will be available, which includes the classification of the specimen, what is the collection date, maybe the place, and what is the common name, so that we can understand and relate it to the similar species. So there is a classification of Homo sapiens, that means human being. Human beings are called as Homo sapiens. Homo is the genus and sapiens is the species. It belongs to the family Hominidae, and we belongs to the order called primates, and we belongs to the class called Mammalia. That means all milk producing animals. It also includes the dogs, cats, and tigers. Subphylum is the vertebrata. All vertebrates comes under vertebrata, and chordata. Chordata also includes vertebrata and invertebrata. And division, kingdom Animalia. As we already discussed, kingdom is the topmost rank, highest rank in the taxonomy, and species is the lowest rank. And this is a classification of tiger. Here the species is Panthera tigris. The name of tiger in scientifically is Panthera tigris. Here the Panthera is the genus and tigris is the species. So here Panthera is the genus name, subfamily is Pantherinae, family is Felidae, that means cats. All cats are included in this specific family. Suborder is the Feliformia, cat-like. Order is the Carnivora. Class is Mammalia. Phylum Chordata. Kingdom is the Animalia. And these are the taxonomic categories. So here, what are those? All kingdoms, kingdom Animalia, kingdom right from kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista. We have 5 kingdoms: kingdom Monera, Protista, Animalia, fungi, plantae. So these are the basic kingdoms. And a kingdom includes, this is a large group of animals or plants or maybe organisms. So it includes many phylums in it, and a phylum includes many classes in it, and a class includes many orders. One order includes many families, and a family consists of many related genera, and a genera includes related species. And once species, here is the basic taxonomic unit. This is the lowest rank, and it may also subdivided into subspecies. Here, if you go by species is the related organisms which can interbreed to give fertile offspring. They can reproduce among themselves and give fertile offspring, and they are reproductively isolated from other such groups, and they closely resemble with each other. They share common ancestor, so they are closely related and they share common ancestor. That means they are evolved from these common ancestor. Different species are evolved from the common ancestor. So genus is the group of species. So some related groups included in the genus. So they are similar in their broad features. But if you go study in detail, then the species in one genus maybe are different in their nature. So species in genus have common ancestry. Next one is a family. Family is a group of similar genera which resembles in their characters. So example is genus Panthera. Panthera include Felis and Felidae. Genus Felis. Genus Panthera includes under the family called Felidae. And the order is the group of families that exhibit few similar characters. For example, plant families called like Convoluaceae, Solanaceae are included in the same order, that is polynomials. So based on their floral characters. So the floral characters, based on their floral characters, these two families are included in the same order. The animal family, Felidae. So this Felidae and Candidae, these two families are included in the order called Cornivora. So here class consists of different orders, and here an example of this is Mammalia. Class Mammalia includes Primata and Carnivora. Here the next level of classification is phylum. Phylum includes the group of related animal classes. That means maybe birds, mammals, all are included in the phylum Chordata. So here kingdom is the highest category, broad classification, closely related organisms, that means all plants, which share one common feature must be there, which differentiate these kingdom from the other kingdoms, that must be there. So basically autotrophic mode of nutrition is the differentiating factor that distinguish animals to the plants. So presence of autotrophic mode of nutrition, that is only possible in plants, not in animals. Presence of cell wall, only present in plants but not in animals. That cell wall is mostly made up of cellulose. So these are the common features found in kingdom Plantae, but these features are absent in Animalia. So taxonomists have also developed subcategories to understand understand the organisms into more details. They also made subcategories. So that is what the so basically, these are taxonomic characters. What are the different types of classification? So for classifying organisms, if you take very limited characters, that may be size, habitat, or similar to that, only very handful characters are taken under consideration for classifying organisms. That is called artificial system of classification, and that is not existed now. And the other type of classification is natural classification, in which it includes all important biological similarities, all biological features of an organism. That means maybe anatomical features, cell biology features, ecological features, evolution features, evolutionary relations, and the embryological. So all characters are considered to understand the classification of an organism in case of natural system. So it leads to the homogeneous assembly of related species. So all related species will come under homogeneous groups, similar groups. So phylogenetic system. What is phylogenetic system of classification? Here it is based on the evolutionary relationships. Based on the evolutionary relationship, what is the common ancestry of organisms? So organisms which share common evolutionary history, common ancestor, are classified into the one group. So basically it is good system, apart from the demerit that for every organism it is not possible to classify them phylogenetically, because we need to understand the fossils to understand the connections between related species. So but fossil record is not complete, we have gaps in the fossils. Fossils need to be found. So because of the gaps in fossil records, it is not possible to understand phylogenetic systems. So phylogenetic system still, though it is good, it is not applicable to classify all living organisms based on the phylogenetic relations. So these are the types of classifications: artificial, natural, and phylogenetic. And biological classification. So what do we mean by biological classification? So we also discussed it based on similarities and dissimilarities. We group the organisms into related groups. That is called biological classification. Here, the scientific term for groups or categories is called taxa. So here, it includes many features like internal features, structure of the cell, and developmental processes, ecological information, and their evolution. All these characters will be considered, and those are helpful to classify the organisms. So systematics is the study of arrangement of organisms into their respective related groups. Systematic arrangement of organisms into their respective taxonomy groups is called systematics, and the other study that is called neosystematics, that also includes the interrelationships of living organisms. And the next one, binomial nomenclature. We also discussed this. Binomial nomenclature, every scientific name have two parts: genus and species, and the name of author represents either name of author appears after the species. That means if this is the name of the scientific name of the mango plant, then Mangifera indicates the genus. Indica, in the Mangifera indica indicates the name of the species, and here is the Linnaeus, who is the discoverer of this plant. So here the full name will not be mentioned, but the abbreviated form of the name will be mentioned after the species name. And if they are printed, they should be in italics, so that the Latin origin of this name will be understood. And if they are handwritten, they must be underlined. We need to underline the word. So the name of genus always read first. Mangifera, here that comes first, and the first letter from the genus must be capitalized. The first letter from the species need not to be capitalized. And here is the other term called tautonyms. So if the species and genus name are the same, then we call as tautonyms. Examples are Katla Katla and Nasa Nasa. So that is the other point we covered. We also discussed what are the common features of living organisms. What is living? Basically, they share some common features like they grow, they develop, they reproduce, they show metabolism, and they have the ability to sense the environment. So these are the features shared by the living organisms. So some non-living organisms may also possess some of the characters like living organisms, but all of the characters are not present. Living organisms basically of self-replicating. They can replicate, they can reproduce to give little ones, and they are evolving. So based on the environmental changes, based on their the requirements, they will evolve and try to survive according to the changes that are happening around, and they are self-regulating. They can control themselves, they can control their own activities. That is called self-regulating. And interactive systems, that they will interact with their surroundings, which are able to respond to the external environment. So living organisms are able to respond to the external environment. So basically, growth is the feature that can be indeterminate growth and determinate growth. Indeterminate growth means, or if an organism is continuously growing throughout their lifespan, that is called indeterminate growth. And if the organism is stopped growing in the size after particular age than like what happened in the animals. So that is called determinate growth. And coming to the next feature of living organisms, that is reproduction. There are two types of reproduction: sexual and asexual. Okay, sexual reproduction is deals with the fusion of gametes, and asexual reproduction is fusion of gametes is not possible here. The number of chromosomes will also be changed in the case of sexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, these things are not possible. And these asexual reproduction produce very same kind of offspring to their parents, because there is no mixture of gametes. So asexual reproduction could be carried by binary fission, like what happened in amoeba, budding, yeast and hydra, and fragmentation, like what happened in the starfish, and regeneration. So whatever lost parts of the body can be regenerated. In the case of regeneration, that is the example. We can find the character in the example called flat form, that is planaria, and or by spreading the asexual spores, spreading millions of asexual spores, like what happened in the fungi. They can also reproduce. Organisms may also reproduce. So that is what the living world. So we discussed, this is the subtopic from unit called diversity in the living world. That is first unit from class 11th. So hope you understand. I think time is up. So by this, we end the class. So we'll continue with the other topic, next chapter, that is biological classification, by next week, next class. Okay, hope you understand. And is there any points to discuss? Yes, please.
No, ma'am.
Yes. Yashashwini.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
No doubts.
No doubts. So this is the end of session, and you prepare well and come with the. Okay. By next class, we'll discuss on the same topic. We'll revise this topic. We may ask some questions. Okay. So thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. This is end of session. Next, in the next class, we are going to discuss what is the biological classification in detail. What are the different kingdoms? What is kingdom Monera? What are the common features? Okay, what is kingdom Protesta? What is Plante? What is Animalia? Like that. Okay. So bye.